Hello viewers, I am Will Keith, and I am here today with kind of a small scale, unusual video where I'm going to be talking about how the most common types of swords were used realistically in history. How the katana and your generic European sword, broadsword, longsword, whatever you want to call them, were actually used, because there's a lot of misconceptions, and I know there's a ton of YouTube channels that have already run through this kind of thing, but I really have not. So I figured I'll give it a go, and hopefully I'm not giving out any kind of misinformation here. If I am, let me know and I'll do what I can to fix it. So we're sitting here on a still of The Last Samurai, the Tom Cruise movie. You've all probably seen it or at least heard of it. And everybody is just running into battle with their katana out, and that's not how it went. Katana weren't used in open warfare, and when they were, it was used as a last resort. Think about it like a modern soldier. You're in Afghanistan, you're a soldier, you're walking around, you've got a rifle, right? That's your primary weapon. You have a pistol on your side, that's your secondary. You're not going to use that unless you absolutely have to, because you've lost your primary, it broke, something happened to it. The katana was not a primary weapon in Japanese battlefields. We're going to move on here. We have your generic image of a samurai. He's got the katana. Samurai obviously did carry the katana. They had a daisho, a katana and a wakizashi. That's not shown on this image. We're going to skip through here. Image of your standard katana. You know, the curved blade. That's actually a rather nice sheath there. I want this. I'm not positive what katana this is, but I definitely want it. It looks nice. But you all know what a katana is. And this is a samurai's armor. And this is where things get tricky with a katana. Look at this blade, long curved blade, and then look at this armor. How is this supposed to kill the person who is wearing this? Yes, you have weak points under the arms and down by the legs, but those are very, very small targets. The neck is protected, the chest is protected, the sides are protected, the hips are protected, the thighs, even the calves have armor down there. The arms, the shoulders are covered. Unless you get... I'm pointing at my screen. You can see where I'm pointing with my finger in real life. No. Unless you get the katana, the tip of the katana, right in here, or right around here, this guy's not gonna fucking die. And that is what the problem is with using a katana in open warfare between samurai. Another image of the armor here. You see how well protected this guy is. And what he is holding is a yari spear, and this is what you would call the primary weapon of a Japanese battlefield. This thing is fucking sick for getting through armor. It's easier to aim than the thrust of a katana. You got much longer range. A katana is a two-handed weapon as well, but this is much easier to manipulate into fine areas of the opponent's armor, and a good thrust can even penetrate some spots of the armor. Not all spots, but there's some parts that are more like layered cloth than actual metal armor, and that spear will have a much easier time getting in there. This is what samurai use to kill other armored samurai on the field of battle. And then you have the Yumi bow, which was another thing that was very popular on Japanese battlefields. Very strong bow. It will penetrate armor. It's easy to aim, not easy to aim, but once you're good at it, it's easy to hit those weak points of the armor. And then you have a naginata, which is basically a katana on a stick. This, it's slashing weapon and a thrusting weapon. Not the most optimal thing, but just that extra range keeps the samurai safe, whereas samurai wielding just a katana would be vulnerable to enemies wielding spears, or an enemy with a katana who's simply better than they are. We have here a artist's depiction of a Japanese battlefield, and see here you got the spears there, the Yari spear. Everyone's got a spear. This guy's got a naginata, flag bearer back there. I've always found it funny, the people just standing on battlefields swinging fucking flags around, but you gotta represent. You got the samurai wearing a daisho, this dead one down here. Another one back here with the daisho, the katana, and the wakizashi. but these are secondary weapons. If you have a spear, if you have a naginata, you're not going to want to use that. If you're a bowman, if you've got the bow and you're way in the back and somehow the enemy reaches you, that's when you draw the katana, because that's your secondary weapon that you're supposed to use in that kind of emergency. And we have another one here. Most of them have the bows. You have a naginata here, a spear here, and up here. And you guys can see my mouse pointer, I really hope. Yeah, okay. Now, when a katana would be used in Japanese history is what I'm going to get into now. Here we have a image from a movie. Not sure what movie. I should probably learn that before I make this video, but I'm already making this video, so it's a bit late for that. Duels between samurai with katana were very common. Like, this is how the noble samurai would kill each other over honor and other dumb shit. So, you have lots of duels with katanas, both armored and unarmored samurai. Two armored samurai in a katana duel, neither one of them is likely to die unless the other one gets in a lucky hit. But that kind of duel, nobody's really looking to die. It's more to put on a show than anything else. And we have an execution depicted here. Katana were definitely used in executions. A samurai, if they brought dishonor upon their house, as most people know, they were supposed to commit seppuku, cut themselves open with a tanto, and then the executioner, back here, is supposed to deliver mercy onto the dishonored by beheading them before they bleed out from the self-inflicted wound. So katana were used as executioners' weapons as well. And here we have a depiction of an assassination. This isn't a depiction, this is, I guess it technically is, but this is actual real image from an assassination from the 1960s, in which this guy's with wakizashi is taking out this guy. So, the common theme between all of these images is katana were used against unarmored targets, because a katana is not going to have a good time getting through this. And that's basically just the truth of it. I mean, it's fun to imagine the samurai just running into battle with the katana out, all kinds of clashing and slashing, but that's just not how it went. Katana were for unarmored opponents, basically exclusively, unless the samurai lost their primary weapon and was first to draw one in the field of battle. So now we are going to move on to the European sword. This is a hand-and-a-half sword. Some people call it a broadsword, some people call it a long sword. There's specific names for all of these things, but lots of people don't know them. I'm not going to pretend to be a complete expert on this either. I'm pretty sure this will be called a hand-and-a-half sword. So this is another one that is commonly depicted in the wrong use in movies and shows and what have you. We have here an image of a medieval battlefield, and, wow, this is actually really nice. And you got this guy here with the Warhammer, and this guy here with the broadsword. Now, which of these two knights do you think is gonna win? Hint, it's fucking Warhammer guy here. This one, unless he gets it right there in his stupidly open face slot, this guy is gonna win this fight 9 times out of 10, unless sword guy is very, very lucky. The Warhammer is gonna bash up his helmet, it's gonna fucking knock him out, it's gonna break bones. You got the spike on the back of it, that could go right through the helmet, right through the breastplate. The spike on the tip of it even, that's a really good thrusting weapon there. And this is the kind of weapon you want if you're fighting somebody in full plate armor like this. Like, a sword is so inefficient against armor that one of the only ways a knight with a sword could defeat another armored knight is to literally flip the sword upside down, hold it by the blade, and bash him up with the hilt and the guard of it. That's called Murdhau. Anybody who's watched like realistic medieval or historical European martial arts videos will know what that is. And that was a real thing. I mean, it looks kind of ridiculous, but you gotta remember these guys are wearing gauntlets, so it's not like it puts them in danger, but that is not how an efficient anti-armor weapon should work. Look at this plate armor. Fucking look at it. You have these discs, again I'm pointing at my fucking screen like you can see that. You got these discs protecting the armpits. You got the plates down here protecting the hips and the gaps around the groin. There is almost no fucking way that the sword that this guy has could be used to kill this guy. Like, look at how fucking heavy this armor is. And the thing is, this looks like it may not be maneuverable at all. It even has these little leaf-looking things protecting the elbow joints. There we go. Like, this is one of the best plate armor designs I've seen, and this is like impenetrable to a sword. Got another one here. Even where the armor could be open on the inside of the armor around the legs, you got chainmail there protecting that. And yes, you can thrust through chainmail, but it's not necessarily super easy, and you still gotta be right on target. You want a Warhammer for this kind of thing. You got this spike. That spike could very easily pierce in through the chainmail, around the neck. Cough for a second there. Even this, a Warhammer could have difficulty with, because it's just so thick. Bashing up the helmet, it would seriously hurt the guy. It would knock him out. You would win this fight if you had a Warhammer. But, like, I love the design of this armor. That is fucking amazing. Here we have a halberd. You have the axe head here. That's, good against some armor. Like, you see the points on that? That would easily get through chainmail. But the main thing is you have the spikes on the back and the thrusting tips. These are your anti-armor bits right here. That will fuck over helmets, that will fuck over armor. You wouldn't want to hit, like, a steel breastplate dead on with this thing, because that doesn't look exactly too sturdy. But if you hit chainmail with that, it would go through like butter. A mace, obviously, is another good way to go. Bash up the helmet, break bone. And this is the definitive anti-armor weapon. Look at how thick this bow is. Just look at the thickness of that. And imagine the power this would put on plate armor with a bolt coming out of this thing. This will fuck over any armor really, really good. Like, this is what knights were seriously fucking afraid of once they were invented and commonplace on the battlefield. So basically, any of these options are infinitely better than any kind of sword against armor. So how would knights use long swords, broadswords, hand-and-a-half swords, bastard swords on the battlefield? How would they be used? We have here a depiction of a tournament. This, I believe, is from some kind of reenactment or live-action roleplay. When I originally downloaded this image, I actually thought it was art just because of like how shiny it is, but we have the guy back here in modern clothing, so this is an actual picture from some kind of reenactment or live-action roleplay. So this is a tournament. We're just going with the fact that it's a medieval tournament here. Ignore the fact that this is modern. This is from 500 years ago. I say that as fact. Believe me. Believe me, guys. Believe me. Just kind of rambling off topic there. Anyway, tournaments, using swords was very common because in most tournaments, these knights, they didn't want to kill each other. They knew each other. They were friends. They're from allied kingdoms. They don't want to be murdering each other for no reason. So just bashing each other up with the blades of swords was a really good way to put on a good show in a tournament without anybody actually dying. And then we have here a still taken from one of my favorite YouTube videos. If you just YouTube search longsword duel, you come to this video as the first result, and it is fucking great. But, like, in my imagination, they don't really offer kind of any story explanation, but this guy is attacking this guy in his house or something. I don't know if this guy's a knight or some kind of noble, but he's got a long sword. He doesn't have time to put his armor on. He's being attacked by somebody else who doesn't have armor on. For this kind of fight, a sword is, again, the best kind of weapon you can have, because they're faster, they're lighter than the other options they had before, like the Warhammer and the halberd. Obviously, you don't want to use a crossbow at this kind of distance. So having long swords in a fight 1v1 against unarmored opponents is a pretty good way to go. Best way to go if you have access to that weapon and you don't have any way to get armor on while you're being attacked. So this is just kind of a quick video to explain how these things would have been used historically and the differences between them. People are always fighting about, ooh, what's better, Japanese or European weapons, you know? And the truth is that neither of these are better than either other one of them. They are extremely similar. Yes, a katana is thinner, tends to be more brittle. A European blade can usually take more of a beating than a katana can. That's just fact because of like how they're built and historically the kind of steels they are made with. That problem is eliminated today because they're both made from very strong modern steel. So arguing over what kind of replica is going to serve you better is bullshit. You get what you like, you get what style you want to train with, and you just go with whatever you want to do. So don't listen to any of that bullshit. You're not living in like the 1500s to the 1800s where shitty Japanese sand steel is going to cause you a problem, right? That's not an issue anymore. Just trying to think of any kind of like final notes I can put here. So yeah, the gist of it is that swords were never meant to be used against heavily armored enemies. Whether it's Japanese or European, you're watching a movie or watching a show with a bunch of people with swords in a battlefield slashing each other's armor apart with it, that's straight up bullshit. They're going to be using weapons like the Warhammer, they're going to be using weapons like, gotta go all the way back here, the spear, the Yari spear, and historically you would never have seen a huge army of people with swords wearing armor fighting another huge army of people with swords wearing armor. Vikings, they used axes, they used hammers, clubs, bows. Vikings obviously had bows. Going even further forward into the Renaissance, you already had very basic guns, which immediately rendered basically all armor obsolete. But even then, you had people using sabers because the enemy wasn't wearing armor. Cavalry sabers, they're running up, cutting down the enemies on horseback. Swords were never used against armor if it could be avoided in any way. It just didn't happen. And when it did, it was like, as I said before, the last resort. You draw your sidearm. Imagine a fucking soldier being invaded by the Taliban and he has a little fucking 9mm handgun. Would be the equivalent of a samurai having to draw his katana in open battle. So I guess that's about it for this video. Kind of something different from what I usually do. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.